Two very different wins for the Blue Jackets this weekend. One very exciting win and one good win, I think is the best way to describe it. One fun, one good. Let's talk about both of them on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to bring you news, stories, game recaps, game previews, prospect talk, mailbag questions, all of the above and more about your favorite team of mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before you start, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and also over on YouTube. So, if you haven't subscribed over there, feel free to do so. We are on our way to the next milestone, and that's super exciting for me. So make sure you hit the subscribe button over there. Make sure you're downloading, listening, watching, whatever it is. I appreciate you. And I, for once, appreciate the Blue Jackets, who have back-to-back wins for the first time in, many games, I think. Let's just see how long it's been since they've had back-to-back wins, because I suspect it's been a minute. The last time they won back-to-back games was November 15th and 17th, wins against the Philadelphia Flyers and the Montreal Canadiens. And then they lost a game, won a game, lost 3 games, won, lost 3 more games, and then they've won 2 in a row. A 3-1 win against the Calgary Flames, which we can talk about first. And then last night's game, which was maybe the stupidest win I've seen from these Blue Jackets in quite a while. 6-5 overtime win over the LA Kings. Shout out to Kevin Fiala for scoring the game winner for the Blue Jackets. But we'll talk about all that in a minute. Let's talk about the game against Calgary, which was maybe the Blue Jackets' best game of the season, frankly. Solid first period, clinical, up 1-0. Patrik Laine with the goal a minute in. Just exactly what you wanted from a home period. Could it have been a little bit cleaner? Probably, but when you're looking at stats, again, I would have liked fewer penalties, but it is what it is. They come out of it with a 1-0 lead. Shots at 12-9. Calgary, Jonas Korpisalo, fantastic in that period, I thought. And then for the second period, Elvis Merzlikins comes out, which is worrying, surprising. Jonas Korpisalo not on the bench. Turns out he's going to miss the game. He's out for about a week. Apparently lower body injury. I went back and watched that first period, and I can't figure out where he picked up the niggle, but it doesn't seem like it's too serious. They're just going to let him sit for a little while. And then after that, I was like, okay, so Korpisalo's done. Can the Blue Jackets figure out a win? And the answer is yes, actually. Eric Robinson scores in the second period to make it 2-0. Again, a really solid start to the period. Another odd man break, just a full breakaway, and I've lost count of how many times that Eric Robinson has had a breakaway and not scored, that now I just don't get excited for them. And he proved me wrong. So he unassisted goal makes it 2-0. That's his third goal of the season. And the Blue Jackets are up 2-0, and it's looking pretty good. Elvis is looking solid in net. He only made 6 saves in that period, but hey, he only needed to make 6 saves, so I'll take it. Michael Stone gets one in the third period with about 2.5 minutes left, and it's looking a little bit dicey. I was like, man, now do we need to watch the Blue Jackets try to score in an empty net? And the answer is yes, we do. But Sean Crowley scores his 7th of the season with 25 seconds left to put the game away. The Blue Jackets win 3-1. Like I said, maybe their best game of the season. Still, maybe a couple more penalties than I would like. The Blue Jackets took 3, 4, 6 minor penalties in that game, but the Calgary Flames took 7. So I will take less penalties than the other team is, I feel like, a start for that kind of play. Elvis Merzlikins, fantastic. 1 goal on 20 shots. Again, Korpisalo, also great. Real team effort. Great to see Patrik Laine, who continues to just kind of score at will, really. He's looking really good. And someone we're going to talk about in the second segment as well. Jack Roslovic has been very good these past couple of games. So I think I need to make a formal apology for saying that he has been brutal and bad and everything. He and Patrik Laine have got some chemistry cooking. They are really kind of flying out there together, which is great to see. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment, because Jack Roslovic had a 4-point night against the LA Kings. And we need to talk about that because there's a couple of fun stats happening there. But overall, I really liked that game. I thought, yeah, definitely things to improve on, but I liked it a lot. Face-offs could have been a little bit better. Obviously, I'd like to have seen the power play get a goal or two if they had 7 opportunities. Shots were pretty close. Ice time was pretty even. Everyone seems to be about where they are. Again, I would like to see that Marchenko, Johnson, Sillinger line get more ice time, especially after last night's game. However, something interesting about Sillinger's game is he's getting quite a bit of penalty kill time, which I don't believe he was getting before. I'm not sure why that is. I don't think any of the penalty killers have been out. I mean, obviously, I think maybe he picked up some penalty kill time in the game against the Sabres where Sean Crowley decided to spend like 8 minutes of the first period in the box or whatever. So whether they just decided to throw him out there because they needed a body, but he's been holding his own, I think, in the penalty kill. Really good to see. And hopefully last night's game, I thought he was really good, and hopefully he can kind of build on that. But we're going to talk about last night's game in just a minute. But first, I've got to tell you about SimpliSafe, because here at the Locked On Podcast Network, we believe home should be where you and your family feel the safest, especially over the holidays. This season, give yourself and your family the gift of peace and protection with the #1 rated home security system, SimpliSafe. Right now, SimpliSafe is offering our listeners 40% off a new security system, but don't put it off, because the deal is not going to last forever. Home security is really important. I know one of my colleagues here at the Locked On Podcast Network, he had a couple of packages stolen over the weekend, and luckily he had a home security system with a camera in the doorbell, so he has been able to figure out who stole them and what happened, and that's really neat. SimpliSafe has a bunch of really cool features. They've got 24/7 professional monitoring agents who use Fast Protect technology, which is exclusive to SimpliSafe. So they can capture evidence, they can verify the threat is real, you can get higher priority police response, so they can tell whether someone's actually breaking in or whether it's just your cat wandering across the room while you're not there. They've got sensors for every room, window, and door. They've got HD security cameras for inside and outside the home, and they've got hazard sensors that detect fires, floods, other threats to your home. And they were named the best home security system of 2022 by US News and World Report for the 3rd year in a row. So don't miss your chance to save big on SimpliSafe. Get 40% off any new system at simplisafe.com/lockedonnhl today. That's simplisafe.com/lockedonnhl today. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Speaking of safe, at no point during last night's game did I feel safe about what was happening or what was going to happen next. The Blue Jackets win 6-5 in overtime against the LA Kings after a game where lots happened. Kirill Marchenko opened the scoring, first NHL goal. You love to see it. Beautiful pass from Kent Johnson, who I believe is now tied for 6th in rookie scoring, at 1 point behind 5th place. So he continues to impress. That whole line, honestly, like that Sillinger, Marchenko, Johnson line, I thought was phenomenal in this game. Boone Jenner scores his 10th of the season, leading the team. Roslovic gets his, I think that's assists in 5 out of the last 6 games for Jack Roslovic, which is really great to see. He's kind of slowly turning his game around. If he can get going, then that's really good news for the Blue Jackets. Power play goal for Boone Jenner makes it 2-0 for the Blue Jackets. Again, really solid first period. I think the Kings came out medium strong, and the Blue Jackets kind of did okay. And then, of course, Andre Kopitar scores, Blake Lizotte scores, it erases that 2-0 lead. Luckily, Patrik Laine stays hot, scores his 8th of the season in his 14th game, which, as I tweeted out, if he plays every game left in the season, he'll play 69 games, which is very nice. But he's on pace for 37 goals, which that's the goals that we need from Patrik Laine. So great to see him continue to score. Makes it 3-2. Unfortunately, Jarrett Anderson-Dolan scores on just a wicked shot. Beautiful pass from Sean Dursey, and just a shot. Why is it past Elvis Merzlikins? Makes it 3-3. And then after that, that's kind of where the fun/chaos starts. Jack Roslovic scores his 2nd of the season, his first in 18 games, shorthanded. Again, brilliant pass from Robinson. Jack Roslovic knows exactly where to be, puts that in the net, and then scores another power play a minute and a half later. So scores a shorthanded goal, 90 seconds pass, 91 seconds technically, scores a power play goal. 2-point night for Gaudreau up to this point. 2-point night for Laine. Jack Roslovic's up to 4 points on the night. Just incredible work from Jack Roslovic for this game. He went from having, I believe, 9 points, 9 points, 10 points on the season, to having 14 points on the season, which bumps him all the way up to like 4th in team scoring in one game. So, like I said, if he can get hot and stay hot, like that's really good news for the Blue Jackets. He did this last season. He kind of was lost for a lot of the season, and then near the end of the season, he really kind of picked it up, turned it on. In the last like 20 games or so, I thought he was great. So, hopefully, he's doing that again, just a little bit earlier. He and Laine are really kind of cooking up some chemistry there, which is really great to see. And I disagreed with splitting Gaudreau and Laine up for the most part. And I want to talk about that in a little bit after we finish talking about the game. But that Laine, Roslovic, Chinakhov line is doing really well. Chinakhov, I thought, was really dangerous. He didn't get on the scoreboard, but I thought he had a really kind of quietly solid game. Had lots of ice time. Had, I believe, 3 or 4 shots on goal. 2 shots on goal. 17 minutes of ice time. Yeah, I don't know. He continues to impress me. So hopefully that line continues to stay hot. And it's 5-3 Blue Jackets heading into the 3rd period. Within 5.5 minutes, Andre Kopitar has scored again. Adrian Kempe has scored his 100th career goal, because, again, the Blue Jackets love to give milestones away. Makes it 5-5, and then the rest of the period is just extremely stressful and also extremely nothing happening. Overtime. For the first time in a while. I feel like it's been a minute since the Blue Jackets have been in an overtime game. It's only their 5th overtime of the season. And who else? Johnny Gaudreau, who didn't like that Boudjeta took the team scoring lead off him. Great work from Laine. That goal was all Laine, frankly. There was a really great quote on Twitter, I think from Jeff Savoda, who said that Laine said it was a D- finish from him in terms of scoring a goal, but I honestly would give that an A+ assist. Johnny Gaudreau is going to get credit for the goal. It goes off his glove, which is why there was a pretty long review afterwards. The streamers came down, everyone left. They started to review it, which I thought was rude that they ruined the celebration like that. But the goal went off Gaudreau's glove, and then in trying to stop the puck going in, Kevin Fiala actually just scored in his own net. So we'll take it. Gaudreau will take it. Kevin Fiala might be murdered in his sleep by Jonathan Quick for that goal, but from a Blue Jackets point of view, it was fun. It was a really fun game. Do I think it was a perfect game? No, I think there was a lot to be improved on. I think the defense got a little bit suspicious. The penalties I thought were much better. Only 2 penalties. And I thought one of those was really borderline. The Andrew Peat penalty, yeah, that's a penalty every day. I thought Marchenko got done a little bit on that call, but no matter. The Blue Jackets managed to kill both of their penalties, and they scored on 2 of their 3 power plays. So special teams, 2 thumbs up. Goaltending was really good in Calgary. I thought needed some work. 33 of 38 saves for Merzlikins. You'd want that a little better, frankly. But it is what it is. And sometimes you're going to have games like that, where you allow 5 goals but score 6. Something interesting, though. Andrew Peeke only played 14 minutes in that game. We're going to talk about ice time in a minute, actually, because the forwards are doing something weird that I want to talk about. But Andrew Peeke had the second lowest ice time in the game. Eric Branson led the way because that's what he does now, I guess. Gavrikov was about a minute behind him. And then the kids, Bjork and Bernie, had about 21 and a half minutes each. Andrew Peeke only played 14, 19, and then Jake Christensen, who really seems to be getting the rough end of the stick here, is sitting at 9:27. I wonder if Christensen sits for Beirut next game, honestly. But that I don't think he should. I think he's worlds better than Beirut, but I wonder. So in a minute, we're going to talk a little bit more about ice time, because the forwards are doing something funky. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But first, I'm going to tell you about BetOnline, because it's your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball, soccer, esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, and if you're listening to Locked On Blue Jackets, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you love sports podcasts. You can find those at BetOnline as well. We are the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So if you want to put some money on the World Cup final, which is happening this weekend, you can do that at BetOnline. If you want to put some money on the Blue Jackets extending their win streak to 3 in a row, which seems like a big ask considering they're heading to Florida today, then you can do that at betonline.net as well. All you have to do is head to the website on your laptop or mobile device to learn more, because BetOnline is where the game starts. So let's talk ice time for the forwards. I feel like this is a drum that I've been banging for a minute now, and this is partially why I didn't necessarily want Gaudreau and Laine to be split up, because the thing is they both need about 10 minutes of about 20 minutes of ice time each. And that's what they got last night. Johnny Gaudreau played 20 and a half minutes. Patrik Laine played 19 and a half minutes. And then you look at the rest of the guys that played on those lines. Nyquist, 19 minutes. Jenna, 20-47, leading all forwards. Chinakhov, 17. Roslovic, 19-34. So your top 2 lines are getting essentially 40 minutes of ice time. And that leaves 20 minutes to split between your next 2 lines. And so that means that line of Marchenko, Sillinger, and Johnson, which for my money was one of the better lines last night, they got 11 minutes-ish. Cole Sillinger got 11:34. Marchenko got 11:08. Johnson got 11:16. And 16 seconds of power play time for Johnson, 11 seconds for Marchenko. Like, I understand that there wasn't a ton of penalty time, and that when they did get penalty time, they scored basically immediately. I think there was like 6 seconds into the first penalty and maybe 30 seconds into the second penalty. So it frustrating way to play the game, because if you're going to keep Laine and Gaudreau split up, then that means that your third and fourth lines are automatically going to get less ice time. And also, like, it's good to see Kuraly, Olivier, and Eric Robinson get their ice time tempered a little bit, because I think they've been much more effective when they have been. The less ice time they get, the more effective they are, I feel like. And so if you're playing them 16 minutes a night, it's not going to work. So I'm not unopposed to them getting, 8 to 10 minutes a night. Eric Robinson had the lowest ice time, 9:28. Like, I'm fine with that. And Eric Robinson had a perfectly fine game. I think Kuraly and Olivier had okay games. Like, they weren't terrible, but the fact that it's kind of grating on me that that third line, which honestly should be getting maybe 14 and above minutes a game. But if you're gonna keep Gaudreau and Laine split up, like this is just what the ice time is gonna look like. It just is. Which again, frustrating to me. I don't disagree with them being split up in principle. I think that top line is working pretty well. Gaudreau, obviously 3-point night last night. Laine also a 3-point night last night, both on separate lines. Laine and Roslovic are clicking. I think Gaudreau and Jenna have really clicked, which is fun to see. Nyquist doing well on that top line. Chilikov also doing well in his top six role, but at the expense of playing the kids, I think that's kind of that's the deal you're going to have to make. Is do you play Gaudreau for 20 minutes a night, Laine for 20 minutes a night, and then everyone else for 20 minutes a night? Like, but it is what it is. Part of that is penalties, I think. Probably it will even out a little bit. I understand, as well, I understand, Gaudreau was clearly hot last night. 2 assists in regulation. Laine, a goal and an assist in regulation. Roslovic 4 points in regulation. Like, you want to ride the hot players. And if they're going to do that at the expense of the fourth line, then I'm fine with that. But if you're going to do that at the expense of the kids, I don't know. That's where it doesn't gel right with me. But like I said, it's only one game. We'll see what happens next game. The Blue Jackets, I believe, have a couple days off now. So they are playing Florida on tomorrow. Tuesday, they're playing Florida, who came into Columbus's barn and bottled it last time. So we'll see if they're any better at home. But still, that's a tough swing going into Florida, I think. And then their next game, I presume, is Tampa Bay, which should be even tougher, even though Tampa Bay's looked pretty mortal this season. So Florida on Tuesday, Tampa Bay on Thursday, and then on Saturday, they get to play the Boston Bruins for the first time this season. So I'm sure that'll be fun and not at all traumatic. But pretty big week coming up for the Blue Jackets. That's 3 good teams to play against. And let's see if they can, honestly, this week, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in tomorrow's episode. If the Blue Jackets can come out of this week with 3 or 4 points, I will be more than happy with that. If they can get, maybe a win and an overtime loss, or a win and 2 overtime losses, or 3 overtime losses, or just any combination of 3 to 4 points, I think I'm going to be pretty happy with how this weekend goes for the Blue Jackets. And we're going to talk about the Panthers tomorrow as we preview the game, see how their season is going. We'll take a look at the last game that they played, see what the Blue Jackets need to do to recreate that, see what the Panthers need to do to stop that from happening again. That's all coming up on tomorrow's episode. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the podcast at LO_Blue Jacket. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. We're going to do a mailbag later on this week, probably Wednesday. So if you have questions for that, you can send those in to the email address. You can comment on this YouTube video. You can at me on Twitter, at the podcast on Twitter, however you want to get questions in. Send a carrier pigeon. I don't know. However you want to get the questions in is fine with me, but send your questions in because the Blue Jackets are fun at the minute, which is not something that I think will last for very long. So we might as well enjoy it while we can. Tomorrow, previewing the Panthers game. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Make your second listen of the day Locked On Sports Today. They've got the biggest stories. They've got hottest takes. You can find Locked On Sports Today wherever you get Locked On Blue Jackets. And it's a really great listen. I catch it as many days as I can, and it always catches me up with other sports because I really struggle to pay attention to sports that aren't hockey. So check out Locked On Sports Today after you're finished listening to this. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.